Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the high-stakes reality of managing a densely populated island's power system. Just think about it. Millions of people, massive industrial hubs, and this sprawling underground network, all operating with absolutely zero margin for error. So how does it all stay online? Right now, somewhere in Singapore, a control room operator is watching every single megawatt on the island move in real time. If a massive generator suddenly trips in the middle of the night, say at 3 a.m., someone has to know within seconds, not minutes, literally seconds. So who is that invisible watcher? Who actually holds the ultimate responsibility for keeping the lights on?
Well, that someone is the Energy Market Authority, or the EMA. But to really understand how Singapore's grid works, we've got to clear up a pretty common misconception. You see, the EMA isn't just some administrative office pushing paper around. They are Singapore's statutory energy regulator, sure, but they're also the active power system operator. By the end of this analysis, you'll know exactly what the EMA controls, what it definitely doesn't, and why this distinction is absolutely crucial the second you need to submit a connection application.
Section 1. EMA wears two hats. To really grasp how the grid functions, you have to realize the EMA is actually doing two very different jobs at the exact same time. First, they're the referee. That's their role in administrative oversight, enforcing market rules and making sure everyone plays fair. But they're also the driver. This is where the EMA literally gets behind the wheel and actively steers the transmission grid. Without a single authority holding both the rulebook and the real-time controls, you just couldn't guarantee supply reliability across the nation. Let's look a little closer at that referee hat first. As the regulator, the EMA has comprehensive administrative oversight. They oversee the entire electricity and piped gas sectors, and they police the open electricity market to ensure fair competition. But here's what's absolutely crucial for engineers and operators. They license both electrical installations and individual electrical workers. You personally need an EMA-recognized licensed electrical worker or LEW license to legally touch regulated high-voltage equipment in Singapore. No exceptions.
And this legal mandate directly empowers their second hat, the driver. The power system operator, which is a division of the EMA, is legally required to direct the operation of the high-voltage transmission networks. They're on the hook for ensuring a reliable supply of electricity, controlling the dispatch of generation facilities, and coordinating all emergency planning.
So what does being the driver actually look like in practice? Well, as the power system operator, the EMR runs the Energy Management System, or the EMS. They are actively dispatching all centrally dispatchable generation units, which is mandatory for any generator above 10 megawatts. They coordinate network outages, and they manage grid stability second by second. The EMS is constantly pulling in telemetry data from all across the island just to make these real-time, split-second decisions. Section 2. The 66 kV voltage boundary. That physical boundary is 66 kilovolts. 66 kV is the critical threshold that divides the entire national grid operations in Singapore. Honestly, if you take away just one technical number from this explainer today, make it this one. Here's exactly how that jurisdictional split maps out. On one side, we have the EMA's territory, that's 66 kilovolts and above. This is the transmission network, where their primary role is enforcing market rules in handling real-time generation dispatch. Then, on the flip side, we have SP Group's territory, 22 kilovolts and below. This is the distribution network. SP Group acts as the distribution system operator, which means they're the ones managing the physical wires and handling the round-the-clock maintenance. The crucial takeaway here is this. Please do not assume the EMA runs the grid in a blanket sense. Engineers actually make this mistake all the time, thinking the EMA operates everything right down to the wall socket. They don't. Their direct operational control, via that EMS we talked about, applies strictly to the transmission network at 66 kV and above. Confusing the two is literally the #1 reason connection applications get sent to the wrong authority. We can actually trace this boundary right back to the Local Code of Practice 5. Under the EMA's electricity regulations, voltages are strictly categorized. While standard international definitions might categorize high voltage as anything above 36 kilovolts, the local CP5 strictly defines high voltage as anything exceeding low voltage parameters, specifically exceeding 1,000 volts AC. It's this rigid classification system that legally underpins the whole jurisdictional boundary we're talking about today.
Section 3. Air traffic control versus ground crew.
A great way to visualize this is to think of the EMA as an air traffic control tower. They have the live radar, they have the final say over who moves where and when, and they make those real-time dispatch decisions for the transmission grid. But they don't own the runways. SB Group is your tarmac ground crew. They have physical ownership of the infrastructure, they maintain the cables beneath your feet, and they run the 24/7 repair crews. Let's apply this analogy to a real-world scenario. Imagine a 66 kilovolt substation trips unexpectedly. Who takes the immediate lead? It's the EMA's EMS dispatchers. Just like air traffic control redirecting planes during a sudden runway closure, the EMA steps in first to redistribute the load across the transmission network to prevent a massive cascading failure. Now, SB Group will handle the physical repairs later, but the EMA is steering the ship in that critical moment. Basically, if the tarmac cracks, you don't call the control tower to bring out the asphalt.
Section 4. Navigating your grid authority. Okay, let's do a quick pop quiz. Imagine you're the engineer on duty, and your facility suddenly trips a fault on a 22 kilovolt distribution feeder. Who do you call? Are you calling the EMA's control center, or are you calling SB Group? Think about that boundary we just established. Well, if you guessed SP Group, you hit the nail on the head. 22 kilovolts falls squarely under SP Group's mandate as the distribution system operator. Because it sits below that 66 kilovolt transmission boundary, SP Group's digital utility mapping and maintenance teams are exactly who you need to coordinate with to isolate that fault and restore power safely. Let's quickly summarize our core takeaways for today. First, the EMA wears two hats. They act as both the administrative regulator and the active power system operator. Second, the EMA's real-time operational territory is strictly the transmission network at 66 kilovolts and above. Third, SP Group manages the physical distribution network at 22 kilovolts and below. And finally, remember that it's the EMA that licenses all electrical installations and the electrical workers who operate them. Getting this wrong doesn't just mean dealing with a rejected form. It signals a fundamental misunderstanding of how the national grid is actively managed. So, I'll leave you with this final thought. Before you submit that next connection application, do you know exactly whose grid you're plugging into? Keep this framework in mind, and you'll always know for sure who's sitting on the other side of your connection. Thanks for joining me, and keep learning.